what we really want is more migrants over time. And what you're going to have is the rich country labor force is going to go down from about 800 to about 600 million people. You're going to have a deficit of about 200 million people in this time. And migrants will be able to make some of this up. Of course, even if migration levels were 5 times their current levels, which they're unlikely to be, they still wouldn't be able to cope with the decline in the labor forces that are going to happen over this time. So our concepts of national, of workers will change fundamentally. I think we'll be, hopefully, much more transnational. We're going through a very xenophobic sort of national phase again, where people think, you know, I'm English, England's for the English, and everyone else is foreign. Well, of course, we're all foreign. It's just a question of how long back you go. Just do your genomics, do your DNA. We're all Africans. Of course, some of us left there 100,000 years, others left there 20 years ago. But the concept of nationality will change over this time. The concept of who we want to work, and there'll be a war on talent, but there'll also be a war on unskilled people. We'll want people to come to our country, to clean our streets, to look after us, to pay our taxes. And the whole concept I think we have of keeping people out will flip to bringing people in. That has big implications when you talk about the environmental and other implications. Over this time, technology will continue to accelerate. So all of your mobile phones are more powerful than the Apollo space programs, entire capacity. You can go down the high street, most probably even in Huntington, and buy a terabyte of information storage for about, what's £80 now. That was the total storage capacity in all the computers in the UK 50 years ago. Okay? So this is what you get with exponential growth of computing power. As you see here, it's getting steeper over time, so that doubling capacity for the same price about every 12 months now. And if you speak to the computer scientists, they'll tell you there's no physical limit on their ability to keep pushing this frontier for at least the next 20 or so years. There's all sorts of really weird technologies like quantum coming out, which are going to keep pushing this. So for $1,000 now, you can buy a spider brain, effectively, and we're moving up rapidly. Very controversial discussion about when do we get to human brain. The whole singularity idea, we can come back to that in discussion if you want to. Will computers be smarter than people by 2050? Certainly Ray Kurzweil thinks so. I don't. I actually don't think we'll ever, well, not ever's a long time, but not for this century, have a brain that is fully like ours, with consciousness, with global humanity, with any spirituality associated with it. But yeah, they'll be able to do a lot of quant very quickly. And so what will you do with that when you have this capacity? What will you do with something that's 1 million times more powerful than your mobile phone, which is likely to be in about 15, 20 years' time? What sort of access? What do you want to do with that? And how will it come? The other big development of the future is miniaturization. Have a look at this without blinking, because this is at the nano level, okay? Nano, 1/1,000,000th. So this is a nano needle going through a nanostructure. It happens to be a nano needle going through a cell membrane. The dimensions are nano, 1/1,000,000th. So this is 44 billionths of a meter in diameter, that needle, and the speed is 44 billionths of a second. Okay? This is from our lab in Oxford in 21st Century School. We are building things that can move all over invisibly, controlled through magnetics, through computers. Now, this is a scary picture, although it might not look like that at first, because what we're trying to understand, and we're not the only people doing this, a lot of people out there are doing this, is what happens when these nanostructures come into contact with your skin. Now, you can go down to your local pharmacy and buy nano sun cream, but you might not want to, because this is what happens when nano goes through your cell. Okay? It takes particles with it. We don't understand nano, but we're making it, and society is making it. So one dimension of the future is invisible structures doing things that we don't see all over, fully computerized and connected in our brains, in our bodies, and in the air. So that's certainly one dimension of the future. Another is the sort of medical miracles which are coming down the road. This is another thing from our group in Oxford. This is a cardiac cell, your heart cell, beating. Okay, what's the miracle about this? this is created from an embryonic stem cell. Okay, so you take an embryo, all of us come from one embryo, one type of cell, that then splits into the different cell groups in our body. The magic is now that we have learned how to create different cell groups in the body from this, to grow hearts or other things. Now, if this can be done in a way that's still in its absolute infancy, we could regrow, for example, spinal columns. So people that are quadriplegic will be able to walk again. Many, many other wonderful regenerative applications for people. But lots and lots of very big questions. The frontiers of this by 2050 are likely to be what's just in its infancy now in the labs, which is take your own cell, you retro it to become an embryonic or pluripotent cell, and then grow it into any cell of your body. Why is that so wonderful? Because it overcomes two main concerns about this. First is any ethical concerns about using embryos, but more fundamentally, any rejection concerns. If you use your own cells and direct them to become any cell, obviously your body's not going to reject them. And that's a big issue with the structure at the moment. So one dimension is STEM, the ability to create anything from scratch. That's very likely to happen. And the other is even weirder, but also likely to happen. And this is genetics. So what we have here is two mice. The back mouse is a wild mouse. The front mouse is very slightly, one of its genes has been snipped, another one added, like you would do when you're cultivating a nice plant. Now, the back mouse, happy mouse, but doesn't want to run for more than 200 meters. The front mouse, even happier, because it can reproduce to the age of about 85 for us, runs for 2 kilometers. Okay? 10 times as far. Slight, very slight genetic modification. So what this suggests is that we, on the cusp of being able to develop technologies which will make the sorts of discussions we have about doping in sport and enhancement with taking a bit of modafinil or anything else before your exam, absolutely trivial compared to the sorts of conversations that we'll have. So, I mean, obviously, I think about, so what's Oxford going to do about all of this? How are we going to test for enhancement? Are we going to test? And what are the equity implications